that fan boost. Lucas de Grassi, where would you use that boost if you could?
Well, if he gets a good start, he might not need it off the start, so he could perhaps save it for later on. So we'll have to see how he uses it.
And Jan, what would you do?
If I was Bruno or Catherine, I would definitely use it at the start of the race, because it's where you can gain the most positions in the least amount of time. So
Bruno Senna must be thanking his stars at the moment, because starting this race in 19th place isn't too good, is it? But getting that fan boost is going to be crucial.
It's definitely going to be crucial, and yeah, hopefully he can use it at the start and get some really good overtakes and move up the grid.
Oh, fingers crossed. We are just 10 minutes away from the first ever Formula E race live from Beijing, and you can see it's a pretty busy grid there. Look, Emerson Fittipaldi in the background.
Nobody's seeing it, but it's being the quickest you can using the minimum energy and managing that. So it's a tough thing. It's a completely different driving style required to do that, especially with the regeneration units in the Formula E car. So it's yeah, I tell you, I'm excited about the whole thing, and I wonder who's going to figure it out first, because there's going to be some tricks to this.
It's a very busy grid down there, isn't it? And we've got fans of British drivers, Brazilian drivers, but look at that, what a view for the start line, absolutely superb. We can now hear from the president of the FIA, Jean Todt, and Formula E CEO Alejandro Agag. They're both on the grid with Nikki Shields.
Well, I'm joined by two men who have been pivotal in turning this dream into a reality. President of the FIA, Jean Todt, and CEO of Formula E, Alejandro Agag. Jean Todt, what is it that makes this so special?
New technology, you know, it's vision for the future, and we wanted to make something with a different energy, which is electricity. In the city, we are in the heart of Beijing, and with a different atmosphere, with a different way of communicating. And I must thank Alessandro and his team, all the FIA people who have believed in it and take some risk to achieve today to be at the start with 20 amazing cars in an amazing city, and I wish really all the best with all my heart for this new FIA championship.
Alejandro, I know a lot of work has gone into it. This must be a very exciting day for you.
Yes, it is. I mean, after all this work, finally what we dreamed 2 years and a half ago is becoming a reality. I think having the first race of Formula E in Beijing, in the center of Beijing, sending a very strong message in favor of electric cars, to convince people to change their minds, their perception about electric cars. That's what we want to do. So I think we're doing history today in Beijing.
Fantastic. Thank you both. And I think we're about to go racing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Not far away, that's for sure. Nikki, only about 10 minutes or so before the racing gets underway here in Beijing. And the great thing about the people that have put this series together is they are motorsport people. Alejandro Agag, he formed Bawar Adax, the GP2 team. He's been involved with deals in Formula One television rights. It's not, you know, it's people with a love of motorsport that have put this together, rather than necessarily coming from the sort of more environmental side.
No, absolutely, and you see that with the teams that are involved too. And you know, Jean Todt is obviously given it a lot of backing from day one, and he. There's not many people with a motorsport history like his, from being a co-driver, Ferrari team owner, or team boss, you know. Very, very impressive.
We can go down now to the grid and hear from the supermodel Bar Raffaelli, who is with Nikki.
Well, I'm joined by the very glamorous Bar Raffaelli. We're also being told that we need to move in the pit lane. It's all getting a bit chaotic down here. Bar Raffaelli, you're here at the first Formula E race. What do you think of it?
I am so excited. I can't even tell you. I came all the way from Israel just to see this. I know it's going to be remembered for generations to come, and I just wanted to say I was in the first one.
Well, thank you for making the trip here, and I hope you enjoy it.
And we were at the first one too, Dario. We can say that.
Absolutely.
So there you can see the grid starting to be cleared, all the VIPs heading back to the E-Motion Club, and now we're starting to get back to the core of racing, and we're starting to see these 20 cars.
We can see the cars again.
Yeah, exactly. It was very busy down there, wasn't it?
That's a great sign.
And it'll be Nico Prost on pole position there in the blue and yellow Edam's car with the all blue helmet. Alongside him on the front row of the grid, Lucas Di Grassi, just to dot a few I's and cross a few T's after qualifying. Frank Montani was given a 3-place grid drop. He qualified 5th. He's been dropped down to 8th place for leaving the pit lane before he was allowed to. And then Jarno Trulli, Stefan Sarazan, Sebastian Buemi, Hopintung and Michele Cerruti all received 10-place grid penalties for a change of gearbox. And Mahindra Racing's Bruno Senna will start in 15th place, just in front of those penalties, because he failed to set a time. And, well, there's a very successful racer, Dario.
There's a legend right there, Emerson Fittipaldi. How does he look so good at that age? He's one of my heroes. What a great guy. And I know for a fact today, if he could, he'd be in one of those cars.
He looks better than you.
He always did.
There's the Formula EJ who keeps the crowd entertained here and provides Formula E with a soundtrack in addition to the noise that the cars make. And you can see an awful lot of people crowded over. They're going to have a great view of the start of this race. It'll take place just below them as they make their way down the start-finish straight on Tianjin East Road. All of these are public roads that we're racing around, maybe around the Olympic Park, but some of them are very busy. And in fact, the final straight wasn't even opened until Thursday morning. And there's Nico Prost then sitting on pole position in the Edam's car. He won at Le Mans this year in the LMP2 class. He's a former Lotus Formula 1 test driver, former Euro Series 3000 champion as well. And although, as we said earlier, he wasn't many people's fancied racer, there's got to be something in those genes.
No doubt. Just look at the view through the visor, the helmet. It just looks like looking at his dad a couple of decades ago, doesn't it?
Daniel Abt starting 3rd on the grid. The young racer who finished 2nd in the GP2 championship recently. And, well, we mentioned Alain Prost. We can hear from him now down on the grid with Nicky Shields.
Alain Prost, this must be a very proud moment for you. It's your team and also your son driving it.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure today. You can imagine, you know, he did a very, very good job. And the team was very strong. Unfortunately, we had a problem with Sebastien. But so it gives us even a little bit more pressure. We only have one car, I would say, to try to win. But we have done good, so there's no reason why should not be okay. It's a big moment also for the series. So just cross a finger for everybody.
I think that whistles for us. Thanks very much.
Alain Prost, of course, also a 4 times Formula 1 world champion, ran his own Formula 1 team as well, and he's about to make his way off the grid, as do the rest of the cars as we approach the start of the race. There's Karun Chandok. He went out in the first group of qualifying and said, I'm not going to be in the top 10. If I get top 8, I'll be over the moon. And he's going to start 4th on the grid. The Indian racer for the Indian team Mahindra. And great to have Karun on board. Even just to have him around is great, but as a racing driver as well, he's a very strong competitor, having raced in at Le Mans as well, and also a couple of seasons in Formula 1 for a couple of different teams. And it's great to have him here. And he will start 4th on the grid. And then 5th on the grid will be Nick Heidfeld there, the German racer. One of the most experienced Formula 1 drivers on the grid, probably I think only behind Jarno Trulli in terms of Grand Prix starts, Nick Heidfeld, as he sits there getting ready to leave. 183 Formula 1 races for Nick Heidfeld. He picked up 13 podium finishes in that time. And in 6th place, Jaime Alguersuari, the youngest ever Formula 1 racing driver when he made his debut at the Hungarian Grand Prix for Scuderia Toro Rosso back in 2009. So, I mean, every time we pick someone, I've got a different stat to read out about them, about 3 different stats to read out about them, because they are so impressive, and it's such a strong grid. As the grid girls now make their way off, we will soon be getting the formation lap and the race underway here in Beijing around this 3.5-kilometer circuit. There you can see the Andretti car on the left-hand side. 4 minutes to go until the start of the race. And it'll be that man, Nico Prost, who will start on pole position here in Beijing. A beautiful venue here at the Beijing Olympic Park, a 3.5-kilometer circuit going around the Bird's Nest there on the right-hand side, the Aquatic Centre there on the left-hand side. The circuit's all well and good, but it's all about the all-electric single-seater race cars that are lined up on the grid for the FIA Formula E Beijing E3. We've just got minutes to go before the start of the race, and alongside myself, Jack Nichols, is Dario Franchitti in the commentary box. And Dario, it's all come down to this, and finally we're about to go racing.
This is when it gets serious now. You know, there's a lot of talk about it. There was a lot of excitement and a lot of questions. Was it actually going to happen? And here we are.
Nico Prost on pole position then. Second on the grid will be Lucas de Grassi in the Abt car with his teammate Daniel Abt right behind him in third position on the grid in that excellently liveried Abt machine. Used to be all red, but they got some Brazilian backers which changed the rear colour scheme of that car. On the left-hand side there, Karun Chandok in the Mahindra, the red, black and white machine from the Indian car company. Then Venturi, the Monegasque car company. A lot of experience in EVs for them and a lot of experience in motor racing for their driver, Nick Heidfeld. Sixth on the grid, Jaime Alguersuari for the Virgin Racing Formula E team. Virgin had a brief flirtation with Formula 1 a few years ago, but Richard Branson couldn't resist getting involved here. The iconic name of Andretti joins Formula E, and it's Charles Pic who will start at the wheel just in front of his teammate Frank Montani, who was given a 3-place grid penalty for a pit stop infringement during qualifying. In 9th position on the grid, we have Nelson Piquet Jr., son of Nelson Piquet, and he starts in 9th for China Racing. 10th on the grid will be Oriol Sevilla, the experienced Spanish IndyCar racer. He'll be lining up for Dragon Racing. 11th on the grid, Sam Bird for the Virgin Formula E team. Again, he's a very quick driver, finished runner-up in GP2 only last season. Jerome D'Ambrosio, another ex-Formula 1 racer, he starts 12th on the grid for Dragon Racing. Then it's the two Amlin Aguri cars, starting off with Takuma Sato, a man with a huge amount of experience in Formula 1 and IndyCar. 14th on the grid will be Catherine Legg in the other Amlin machine. Bruno Senna didn't manage to set a lap time in qualifying, so he starts down in 15th position on the grid. 16th on the grid will be Michaela Cerruti. She had to change her gearbox after an accident in free practice. 18th on the grid should be Sebastian Buemi there on the left-hand side in the next EDAMS car. He was a very quick driver, but unfortunately had an accident in qualifying, meaning he too had to change a gearbox and starts right down towards the back. Stefan Sarazan there in the other Venturi car, and Jarno Trulli at the back of the grid. Not representative of Jarno Trulli's pace. He too had a gearbox problem and had to start right at the back. There you can see the cars lining up. We go on board with Trulli as we get ready for the formation lap here in the FIA Formula E Championship in Beijing. Away pulls Nico Prost to start the formation lap here in Beijing, and it's all about to get real, Dario.
To be fair to the other guys at the back, the gearboxes were caused by crashing.
Yeah.
That's why the changes happened. It wasn't a failure. At this point, you've got to use as little energy, as little power out of the battery as you can on the formation lap while still warming the tyres and the brakes up, because everything you use here will be taken away for the rest of your stint. And so there'll be some careful speed on this warm-up lap.
Yep, they have been set a minimum delta time though, so they do have to go at a certain pace around the circuit as they make their way around now. We saw Karun Chandok getting a slow getaway, but he has managed to pull clear, and Stefan Sarazan at the back of the grid was the other man we were waiting to start the event. But the car's now winding their way through the left-hander, and we go on board with Jarno Trulli as he gets ready to pull off the line after Sarazan has got going again and starts to work up the heat in his tyres and brakes, most importantly, going down towards the first corner. And we'll have a look at this Beijing street circuit as we make our way around it. There you can see that we are right in the heart of the city. You can still see normal everyday traffic just going on under there, and then we come up through, that's the exit of turn 2 at the top there. This is the chicane at turns 3, 4 and 5, which is a very tight sequence of corners. And then we head up to a second chicane before we get to turn 6, which is that left-hander at the top. And as we said earlier, okay, they're all 90-degree right-handers, left-handers, but there is variance in them all. All of them seem to have a different element to them as Jarno Trulli gets going.
No, they definitely are. Each one's a little bit different. The position of the walls, and the chicanes in particular, all that little bit different. And there's that one chicane which would be turn 7, 8, 9, that's caught everybody out. And PK's technique was actually quite interesting. He went behind the curb and used the grass a little bit, but some of the other guys have been caught out by jumping the curb a little bit and ended up breaking the back of the car on the wall.
We'll have a 25-minute race. At some point during the race, the teams and drivers will come into the pits and change cars. The drivers will hop out of their car and jump into the other car and get going again, but it is all under a minimum pit stop time, so there is no advantage to be gained by how quickly you can change, but there's a lot of time to be lost. There is Aguri Suzuki, the man behind originally Super Aguri and now the Amlin Aguri team, and they'll be frustrated with how their testing and season has gone so far. They're down in 13th and 14th position on the grid, and with Takuma Sato and Catherine Legg at the wheel, I think they will be building through the year because they've got, you know, a really strong team there.
I think they have. They just were a little bit behind all through testing as well, and they're just trying to figure it out. So I think as the season goes on, they'll sort it out. But you know, today with the way these cars race, you can win from the back as well. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility.
Buemi, Sarazan, and then soon Jarno Trulli. There is Ho Pin Tung, who had to start from the pit lane. Unfortunately, he was the gap we saw out on the grid, so the Chinese driver with a pit lane start. So we will have 20 cars out there. He was another man who had to change a gearbox because he had probably the biggest crash of all at the penultimate corner. He did the front right and the rear right wheels in and must have damaged the gearbox in that accident as well, as that is the Hui Chong chicane. We're out at towards the end of the circuit now, just 2 corners left to go. The left-hander of turns 19 and then the left-hander at turn 20 bring us back out to the start-finish straight on Tianjin East Road. Well, there's been a lot of talk, there's been a lot of speculation, but now we're actually about to find out what an all-electric single-seater race is going to look like. History about to be made here on the streets of Beijing.
Like any race, though, it's about getting through that first corner, isn't it? And that's electric or powered by gasoline engine. It's all about getting through the first corner before we can really get racing. And you know, these guys are going to be all attacking, I would imagine, at the start there. So get ready for some fireworks.
This is our onboard with Charles Pic as he makes his way towards the final corner. Pic starting in 7th place on the grid. Before that, we had our onboard look at Nico Prost, the pole car, and he's going to be looking back at the 2 apt cars behind. Jarno Trulli has made it around and caught up with the drivers in front of him, so he will be taking up his place at the back of the grid, and that's a real shame for Jarno because he was looking pretty quick and he did well in testing as well, the Trulli team, despite a late start. There's Michael Andretti, the man overseeing the Andretti entry here into Formula E, and do you think it's more nervous for him watching or when he was on the start line racing?
I think for Michael on the start line racing, he took it very, very seriously. But as a boss too, he put the pressure on. He likes to win.
So pole position there on the right-hand side, Nico Prost for the first ever FIA Formula E race. The start of the championship begins here in China. That's Prost on pole position. Behind him is De Grassi and Daniel Abt in the 2 yellow and red Abt machines. Then it's Karun Chandok there on the left-hand side in the red and black Mahindra. And that's the run they will have down towards the first corner. The 2 Andretti cars line up together on the 4th row of the grid. Charles Pic ahead of Frank Montani. In between them, there's also Heidfeld in 5th, Alguersuari in 6th. A grid full of electric racers are about to go racing here in Beijing.
And no clutch here. As soon as the lights go green, jump on the throttle and off you go. So the stalling is not an issue, which takes...
The cars are all lined up. The lights are coming on, and for the first time, we go green in Beijing, and it's a very good start from Nico Prost by the looks of things. The app drivers are coming with him on the way down towards the first corner, but it's Prost who holds the lead into turn number 1. Around the outside goes Nick Heidfeld. He's got past Karun Chandler because they flash past the exit of the first corner, and then up towards the left-hander of turn 2. Frank Montani makes a move on his teammate Charles Pic, and Pic's going into the wall almost. Not quite. A bit of contact in the middle of the pack. Bruno Senna's out of the race. His front left tyre has come off as they make their way now up towards the first chicane, but a good start from Nico Prost. He holds the lead. The 2 Andretti cars almost coming together, and it looks as though Bruno Senna is going to be out with that broken front left as they wind their way now up towards turn 6, halfway around the opening lap pretty much, and Prost has done a good job to get away.
A great start there from Heidfeld round the outside turn 1.
Oh, and they're all running very, very wide on that chicane. We saw Jarno Trulli getting pushed back. It looks like he hasn't managed to get off the line, which is a real shame. Flashing now through the bus stop chicane and out towards turn 14. Absolutely nose to tail on this opening lap. Someone, I think, just cut across it there. Must have missed their braking zone. And there is Bruno Senna out of the race. And what a shame for him. He had troubles in qualifying, which meant he couldn't set a lap time. And now he is out on the opening lap.
devastating for him. He's had a tough day. He had all the pace to really challenge.
Troubles as well for Hope in Tung at pit exit. Of course, this is all very new technology, very new cars to these teams, but in general, we've had a very clean start as we come around turn 19, back out onto the North National Stadium Road, and whoa, big slide. I think that was Serbia getting it very, very sideways and crossed up coming into turn 19. He held it for the time being, but as we come through to complete the first lap, it's Nico Frost who is going to be in the lead of this race as they turn through 19 and out onto the start-finish straight again. Nico Frost leads 7/10 of a second clear of Degrassi, Apt in third. Great move from Heidfeld around the outside to take fourth away from Karun Chanduk. And then in sixth place is Jaime Alguersuari. But look at that nose to tail behind. Nelson Piquet looking racy up behind Charles Pic.
They're about to come upon the yellow flag for Senna's car.
And this is on board with Sam Bird as he exits turn number 2 and heads down the straight. That's Frank Montani in the Andretti car up in front of us. Bird not quite close enough. A little look from behind as we go back on board with Bird. Wow, look at that. So close as they come through the chicane.
Almost got him there.
To the left-hander of 6. And the safety car has been deployed, and that'll be to remove Bruno Senna's stricken car. So there's the BMW i8 heading out onto the circuit to neutralise the race after Bruno Senna came a cropper on that opening lap. Interesting to see who he hit, because everyone else has recovered reasonably well. As the safety car now pulls out, the rest of the cars will slow down. So there is the reason. Bruno Senna's abandoned car.
Back wind's gone in it too.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Not only the front, so yeah, it's obviously had some serious contact.
So the car is now under safety car conditions and they will slow down. And this is going to be interesting because this will allow them to save energy. And although this early in the race, they'll probably all have used a similar amount of energy. If we got a later safety car, it might be a little different. But nevertheless, it's going to give them a chance to push harder when the safety car comes in.
Exactly. It just takes out that part of the equation. It makes it less critical, so they'll be going a little bit harder when the green flag goes again.
And there is Vicky Chandok on the left-hand side, Karun's father, watching on as his son is in 5th place and his son's teammate is out of the race. There's Frank Montani in the white and blue Andretti car, and he and Charles Pic got a little close for comfort. I thought they were going to run into trouble there at the second corner, and experience Michael's wrath.
They nearly broke the golden rule of taking your teammate out, didn't they? And that wouldn't, trust me, that wouldn't be good, Michael.
You never did that with him.
Maybe the once or twice. I didn't mean to, though.
So there are the cars winding their way around to pick up the safety car, the BMW i8. And so we've lost Bruno Senna on the opening lap. Jarno Trulli as well didn't get away, nor did Hope in Tung. So a shame we didn't get all 20 cars around the first lap safely, but on a twisty street circuit, I suppose it's to be expected that there'll be a casualty. We all got through the first corner safely at least, and of course Bruno Senna was starting from down in 15th on the grid, so he wanted to get going as quickly as possible. So here's a look at the a replay of the start then, and off the start, Nick Heidfeld was really the man going into turn 1 that made the big moves. As they come down into the first corner, Prost got away well. Charles Pic made a good start as well, but had really nowhere to go. Tried to look through the middle, but watched the black and red Venturi car going around the outside of Karun Chandok at the first corner, and then at the second corner, really, well, there's a few things to keep an eye on. Here's Montani going up the inside of Charles Pic, which was very ambitious. Bruno Senna just got caught on the inside there, and he got collected, I think it was by Sato and possibly D'Ambrosio in the Dragon car.
Yeah, he got a bit ambitious, it looks like. He sort of halfway down the inside of turn 2 and just made contact. So, yeah, probably nobody to blame there but himself on first look.
And here's the look on board then with the 28 car of Charles Pic. So here comes Frank Montani, his teammate, up the inside. Oh, okay, are you going to give me room, Frank? Not much. Wow. That was very close, and a little bit of a thanks for that.
You'd probably keep your hands on the wheel, wouldn't you? Try and keep it out of the wall rather than waving at your teammate. He can't see you anyway. Trust me, he's looking forward.
So there's Bruno Senna's car being recovered. We are on lap 3 of 25 here in the first Formula E race. And there you can see Heidfeld has made up a position, Chandok has lost a position. Everyone else in the top 6 has remained at the same level. Montani and Sam Bird made up 3 places actually at the start, going from 12th up to 8th position. Piquet Jr. and Oriol Servia both losing spots down to 10th and 11th. Stefan Sarazan going up to 14th place, having started further down the grid. And some of that because of the cars not starting in front of him and Bruno Senna's elimination. And Sebastian Buemi is a man who didn't make much progress. He's still running second to last at the moment in 16th place. So I would have thought Buemi would have tried to make a bit more progress, but if you do, you end up like Bruno Senna.
Yeah, after the day Buemi's had, he's probably taken it easy. He's not had a good day. He's crashed 2 cars, and you know, accepted full responsibility. He just made a couple of mistakes today, and it's not like him. So I think it might be just taking it a little easy.
So Bruno Senna's Mahindra has been hoisted up high and will be removed to the plentiful runoff on the exit of turn 2 as the cars continue around behind the safety car. All this time they'll be saving battery.
It's a big test for these cars. You know, we've run a lot at Donington with the Formula E cars. This is the first time they've run on a bumpy street course, jumping over curbs, all that kind of stuff. So big test for all the components today. It's going to be a challenge for them because the car was really designed and tested for road courses more than street, but so far they've stood up very, very well, unless they've been driven into walls, which any car's going to break.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? This is the onboard view from Nico Prost coming down towards the first corner. He got a good getaway down into the first corner, and Degrassi not quite close enough to get past as they came into the first corner. And that was actually a pretty good getaway from Nico Prost into the left-hander of 2, and then heading out onto the back straight. This one is on board from Lucas Degrassi, and we'll see Karun Chandok getting taken around the outside. So watch that black Venturi car of Nick Heidfeld. Very late on the brakes into the first corner, and he's got the bravery to go around the outside at the first turn and move up into 4th position. Good work there from Heidfeld.
Yeah, cracking move there, perfect. It's great to watch the instant torque of the old electric motor, isn't it?
Yeah.
It just goes.
Yeah, it's a pretty instant getaway. This one is on board with Charles Pic. We've seen him coming together with Montani already, but he positioned himself sort of in the middle. He had to get out of it there, didn't he, really? So, and he had someone on his inside as well.
So Frank again.
Yeah, Frank on his inside and then went to his outside. So that was very desperate to get past there, Montani, and assert his authority as perhaps the more experienced driver in the team.
Yeah, he definitely did there. That was a close run thing.
This was on board with Jarno Trulli, and that's what happens when you don't quite manage to get away off the start line, and that's real frustration for Jarno. The medical car pulling past, but there's our race leader, Nico Prost, with a very clear visor actually. Most drivers, I think, tend to sort of go a bit more tinted, don't they?
Especially at this time of day, as the sun's going down a little bit, that could cause some issues in some of the directions.
So in the race, these cars which have 200 kilowatts of power in qualifying trim, which is equivalent to 270 brake horsepower, they run lower than that during the race, a maximum of 150 kilowatts of power, which is equivalent to 200 brake horsepower. The fan boost gives them a 30 kilowatt boost, which again is equivalent to 40 brake horsepower. So I wonder if we might see some people using the fan boost off the restart. It's Lucas Degrassi, Catherine Legge and Bruno Senna that have them. Senna probably won't be in a position to do it, but Degrassi, if Degrassi is close enough to the back of Nico Prost, he might have a chance of using the fan boost and getting past.
Yeah, first safety car, how is it going to work? When is Prost going to go? What's it going to look like? Yeah, Degrassi might just jump him. It'll be good to see that. It's definitely going to give him an advantage. It's a big percentage power gain, isn't it?
Yep, absolutely. An extra 40 brake horsepower for 5 seconds on each car. It's good to see so many fans out in attendance here in Beijing. It's not good to see Bruno Senna walking away after a first lap incident. He tries to find his way back to the paddock in what is a maze of a street circuit winding around the Olympic Park here in Beijing. We are on lap 4 of 25, still behind the safety car, but I don't think for much longer because the car appears to have been cleared, so fingers crossed we may get the safety car back in this lap as Alain Prost watches on as his son continues to lead the race. The safety car will be coming in this lap, so we'll be going green again in Beijing before too long. This is the view from on board with Nico Prost, with Lucas Degrassi right up behind him and showing himself in the mirrors there.
He's getting close. One of the keys here, we talked about warming the tyres up, warming the brakes up to carbon brakes on the Formula E car, and they're quite difficult to get the temperature in, so we're going to see the guys really try and get those up to operating temperature before the safety car goes in.
There's Karun Chandok, and running in 5th place. Jaime Alguersuari there in 6th in the Virgin car. Frank Montani 7th, Sam Bird in 8th. 9th place for Charles Pic. In the top 10 at the moment is Nelson Piquet Jr. The point scoring system is the standard FIA system with 25 points for the win, all the way down to 1 point for 10th position, but there's also 2 points to be gained for setting the fastest lap of the race. There's the message from race control. Safety car in this lap, and we'll be getting racing again. And we may see cars being pushed a little bit later into their stint because they'll have more battery. We may see cars running at a higher speed and still coming in at the same time. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, it might open up a bigger window for the strategies, and which will make it more interesting for everybody watching at home, exactly what goes on there.
I think Ho Pin Tung has made it out of the pit lane and onto the circuit. I think he might be a lap down, but he is still out there on track. So we've got 18 cars running as the safety car will come in. They're coming up towards the penultimate corner now. This is the Huichong chicane on the Huqing Road as we come up to the penultimate corner of turn 19. And at some point, Nico Prost will decide to floor the throttle, use all that torque. He'll probably turn it up to 150 and get racing underway again when he feels appropriate.
Because Lucas has got that fan boost, so
we'll wait and see when de Grassi decides to use that fan boost as they come down towards the final corner now. Prost checks his mirrors, and there he goes. He's got on the throttle and he's tried to pull away as much as possible from de Grassi. We go green again here in Beijing. Nico Prost leading the way. Lucas de Grassi in 2nd place. It's 3rd for his teammate Daniel Abt, and it's 4th place on the road for Nick Heidfeld. That's Ho Pin Tung moving to the inside line and trying to get out of the way of the cars behind because he is a lap down, but he happened to come out in the middle of the safety car period. So we're racing again on lap 5 of 25. 21 laps to go then.
Montagne's looking racy.
He is, isn't he? He is right up behind Sam Bird as they come down into the chicane. Bird goes defensive. He needs to be careful because Ho Pin Tung's in there. Montani won't be able to get around the outside. And, sorry, it's Montani behind Alguersuari with Sam Bird behind him and then Charles Pic behind him. So Virgin Andretti for 6th to 9th positions.
Lining him up here for a move.
Down into the chicane. A little bit wide there for Ho Pin Tung, but he keeps it all together. Winding through the 2nd chicane, the bus stop, and Montani is right up behind Jaime Alguersuari. They're all so close to one another, aren't they?
Yeah, he's weaving about a lot, but he hasn't made the move yet. He's wasting a lot of energy doing that. He needs to set him up, which he might have just done right here.
Out into 14, out onto this long sort of straight, and here we can see the graphics up in front of us, but look at the move up the inside coming down into the
bit of a block
chicane, yeah. Not able to quite get past. We're on board with Sam Bird, and that is Montani trying to get past Alguersuari going into the Huichong chicane. And now he's going to look to the outside, to the inside, but Alguersuari is covering his line, and Montani goes to the inside, locks up and gets past, and that's going to allow Sam Bird to get through as well on the exit of 19, going side by side with his teammate down towards the left-hand hairpin, and Alguersuari will have to yield this position, surely. And this could compromise Charles Pic, and here comes Nelson Piquet Jr. up the inside, all trying. That final corner is so tight. There's no way you can go through there side by side.
It's so inviting to do it too in that heavy braking zone, and you think, okay, here we go. And it tightens up in a hurry. It's good racing right now.
Nico Prost has a 2nd advantage. Here's Serbia going past Nelson Piquet Jr. into the 1st corner. Takuma Sato is involved as well. So that's Serbia taking 10th place away from the Brazilian. Piquet Jr. holds his nose on the inside. That could give Takuma Sato the advantage because he took more speed through that 2nd corner as they come out onto Tianchun West Road, down towards the chicane, and Sato follows through then. And so Sato now takes 11th. Serbia's in 10th. Nelson Piquet goes from 10th to 12th in the space of 2 corners. Nico Prost up at the front has a 9/10 of a second advantage, and someone has collected something out there.
It's the back wheel cover of one of the cars.
I wonder if it's Nico Prost, you know.
It looks like, yeah, it could be, or one of the Andretti cars.
Or is it an Amlin? Here we go, through we go. It's come off the back of Buemi's car. So I wonder if Buemi
wings just failed too.
I wonder if he's had a bit of contact out there that's loosened it.
Yeah, it looks like it. That's what it looks like, and it's taken the wing with it. That's unfortunate.
So I thought for a moment it was going to be Nico Prost, but it's still Prost leading the way. Only a second ahead of Lucas de Grassi in 2nd place. 3rd place, a further 1.6 seconds back, is Daniel Abt. There you can see the standings down at the bottom. And there you can see that's the percentage of battery remaining. So we saw in the early stages they had 85%, they're now down to 63%. And when obviously you get approaching 0%, that's when you want to come in and change your car for your second one that's waiting in the pits. So we can see who's used more battery than others, which is very interesting. Here's a look at the inside from Serbia, but that's just him lapping Hope in Tongue. Nelson Piquet Jr. is trying to get back past Takuma Sato. That's getting tight in there. It's still going wheel to wheel.
Side by side.
Yeah, absolutely. We were wrong about that one. Sato will have the inside line down towards the first corner to start lap 7, and Sato will not quite hold on to the place. Piquet goes all the way around the outside at the first corner, down towards turn number 2. And Piquet gets the job done, so he holds on to that 11th place for the time being.
That's a good race, and really nice. They gave each other some room there and didn't needlessly break some stuff.
And all this has allowed Jerome D'Ambrosio in the silver Dragon Racing car to come into the fight as well. All in the middle of that still, we've got the Team China car of Ho Pin Tung trying to get out of the way of these guys, because he is running a lap down in 18th place. Sebastian Buemi has come back into the pits after that damage to his car. The top 3 cars, meanwhile, only covered by 2.5 seconds, so it's difficult to know where to look at the moment as they flash out of turn 14, out onto Huqing Road once more.
It's clear that Prost's using a little bit more energy staying ahead there. And will that come to affect it towards the end? Is he sort of taking some out of the bank right now? Who knows? It's all unknown, it's all new, isn't it?
Absolutely, and even all weekend we've been asking the teams, what are you going to do? And a lot of the time they're not quite sure what the best strategy is until they've done a couple of proper races.
Yeah, or either that, they don't want to tell us. It could be either.
So this is on board with Nico Prost. You can see the kilowatts he's running at on the right-hand side. So as he's braking, the green regen flashes up, but then on that tower, when he gets back on the power, you'll see it go up and crest to 145 kilowatts. He can use a maximum of 150, so he's saving a bit of energy at the moment. Obviously, you've got the kilometers an hour in the middle there, and you can see 53% battery remaining, and that's just like any battery-powered thing. You've got 52% remaining, so when you get down towards 0, you've got to come into the pits. You've also got the brake pressure coming in there, the gear that they're using, and of course the throttle application and speed as well. So hitting 160 kilometers an hour before he turns into the first chicane on this 3.5 kilometer Beijing circuit. And Lucas de Grassi is sticking with him about a second behind. Through turn 6. They're starting to drop Daniel Abt a little bit. Abt closed in on that last lap, but it's 2.3 seconds now between first and third. The quickest man out there actually is Frank Montani. He's just at the fastest lap of anyone, and he's closing in on the back of Karun Chandok, who's right up behind Nick Heidfeld. So there's Heidfeld and Chandok, and there's the fastest man on the circuit, Frank Montani, flashing through.
How much energy and how much Frank's got it turned up, because he is catching. You know, he's blown by a bunch of cars, and he's catching the guys ahead of him. That turn 9 chicane, every time you see a car go through there on the exit, it's right on the limit.
Trying to fix Sebastian Buemi's car. And Buemi, I suppose, one of the favourites of the championship, but master of his own downfall today to crash the car in both free practice sessions.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody has a bad day, and he definitely did today. So I think we'll be going back and regrouping. But the other Edam's car leading the race with Nico Prost. So, you know, good and bad today for the team.
All on the shoulders of Nico Prost at the moment then. Frank Montani is bringing Sam Bird with him, actually. Sam Bird is lapping at a similar speed to Frank Montani in front, so those two might be coming together to join the battle in the back of the pack. We saw a very close pair there, and it's Nelson Piquet and again Aurel Servia going side by side into the final corner. Piquet gets it done on the brakes. Good work from Piquet Jr., and that moves him up into 10th position again. As they come across the line, you can see Piquet Jr. has used slightly less battery power, but when it's within 1 or 2%, it doesn't really make a huge amount of advantage. But again, Frank Montani, the quickest man on the circuit.
I wonder if Servia got a little bit excited with those early laps and used a bit too much, and he's having to pay the price now and just back off just a little bit.
17 laps to go. We're on lap 9 of 25 here in Beijing. The first ever all-electric single-seater race around the streets of Beijing, around the Olympic Park venue for 2008. As they come down towards the chicane, there's the bird's nest on the left-hand side, and Takuma Sato is now the man who's right up behind Aurel Servia, and out of the pits comes Sebastian Buemi after picking up that rear wing damage and he's going to head back out onto the track because, well, he doesn't have a fan boost, but if you set the fastest lap of the race, you can get an extra 2 points. So it's worth going out there and trying to do that.
I think right now he'd take any point he could get.
Incident involving Bruno Senna and Takuma Sato under investigation. So we saw them coming together at the second corner. And so that will be investigated by the race stewards. And here is Sato, still up behind Oriol Servia, winding through the Huichong chicane and out towards turn 19 once more. All running line astern, but it's really closing up for fourth place behind Nick Heidfeld, with Chandok, Montani and Sam Bird all coming right with them. So that's going to be a very close squabble before too long. Down towards the final corner, and Piquet Jr. has just made a bit of a gap now.
This is probably the most consecutive laps they've run on the track. And you're going to start noticing things, the way the tyres wear, the way your temperatures are building, all that kind of stuff. And I wonder if they would make any adjustments to the tyre pressures on the second car.
Yeah.
Because of that. They'll now realise, okay, the setup we chose is a little too aggressive, or it's really starting to actually come into its operating window.
On board we go with Lucas Di Grassi, looking back to his teammate Daniel Abt right up behind. In the top three right together. We always thought Edams and Abt would be two of the strong teams, and it certainly looks to be panning out that way, with Nico Prost leading the way. But then that queue behind for fourth place is really starting to come to fruition. Here come the leaders then. Prost, Di Grassi, Abt, flashing through the bus stop chicane and down towards the left-hander. This is where the circuit gets really narrow and then widens up a little bit again and probably out onto the widest part.
Yeah, that area there, turn sort of 13, 14 is unbelievably narrow. When we walked down there yesterday, I thought we'd gone down the runoff, but by mistake. And being narrow like that, very, very easy to make a mistake.
16 laps to go, and Karun Chandok is starting to have to defend because Frank Montani has caught the back of him and is looking very racy in that Andretti car. Let's have a look. So Chandok has 33% of battery remaining. Montani, according to this, has 65% of his battery remaining. So
I think that might be an error.
Yeah, we'll see whether that turns out. He is lapping very, very quickly, but it'll be interesting to see whether that is accurate at this moment in time. Here comes Montani into the final corner, looks at the inside of Chandok, gets it on the brakes. Chandok sees him coming and has to turn in very, very late in the day, floors the power, and that is Frank Montani through up into fifth place.
Another great move by Frank there. We knew he was going to be aggressive, and he's definitely living up to that. He's done a great job getting up there so far.
Through the first corner, as we go on board now with Sam Bird, who's the next man to try and pass Karun Chandok. Into the left-hander that takes them out onto Tianchen West Road towards this first chicane at 3, 4 and 5. A little nose to the inside, nothing doing just yet.
I think what we're seeing from this is the cars can run very, very close together, which is great for racing. They're not getting a massive draft from the car in front, but because they can run so close together, you're not getting the normal aerodynamic wash that you would get.
Oh, and there's Takuma Sato on the exit of the first corner. The Amlin Aguri car has ground to a halt, unfortunately. Hopefully he may be able to get that going again. The Japanese driver, who was a very late addition to the Amlin Aguri team, he tested for them a couple of times, and of course was with Super Aguri in Formula 1, but they weren't expecting him to race until the very last minute. Yellow flags out at that first corner. It's really starting to close in for a lead of the race now. Just 1.3 seconds between Prost, Di Grassi and Abt.
Yeah, it looks like Lucas is catching him and Abt's catching Lucas, so we'll get ready for some excitement here, I would say. I think it's when you want to pounce, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the thing. When do you want to use that extra bit and pounce on the guy in front?
On board we go with Ho Pin Tung in the Team China car. Been put together by Mr. Stephen Liu. And it's great to have Team China here. And Ho Pin Tung, a very experienced racer, very quick racer as well. 2007 German Formula 3 champion before moving on to GT racing, other single-seater race series as well. And it's such a shame that he hasn't quite been able to... Well, he's been able to perform, he's got the pace, but it was just that accident in the free practice session combined with the gearbox problem is a real shame. Sebastian Buemi, as we suspected, has just set the fastest lap of the race, so that's potentially 2 points in the bag for him.
I think he's probably got it turned up to 11, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He's not caring about running X amount of laps now. He just wants the fastest lap because he's not going to figure in the main result. It's good that Hoping Tongue's out there because he is the local favourite, and good to actually get the car on track despite all the tough things that had happened today.
So it's very interesting, the toing and froing up at the front, because all of a sudden the top three have spread out a bit, and Nick Heidfeld is coming into the fray. It's 1 second now between every car from first down to sixth, as Chandler goes a little wide coming through the bus stop.
And here comes Frank.
Yeah, exactly. Frank's coming to join the party in 5th place, closing in on Nick Heidfeld. We're on board with Sam Bird in 7th position, runner-up in GP2 last season, and he's trying to get past Karun Chandler in front.
The Virgin cars running 7th and 8th here, fairly closely tied in speed.
Yep, Jaime Alguersuari is he's 4.5 seconds back at the moment, so we'll be running a bit of a different energy mapping strategy.
Prost looks like he's looking in the mirrors a lot. I think he's just managing the gap. It looks like that's probably what he's up to there, and just trying to keep Degrassi just a sort of sensible distance back.
Fastest middle sector of anyone for Frank Montani in the Andretti car, so he is continuing his really impressive pace to join the back of Nick Heidfeld up in front of him in the battle over 4th position. So it's Heidfeld in that black and red Venturi machine, Frank Montani behind in the white and blue Andretti car that turns into the first corner. Still Takuma Sato's car being recovered out there, and we've got one person into the pits. That's Stefan Sarazan, I think, going into the pit lane. Yes, and Jaime Alguersuari. So both of those guys coming in reasonably early, considering they haven't necessarily had that much pace.
Yeah, they're going to try the undercut, try to do something with strategy, aren't they? But that makes that last stint of the race a wee bit long, considering they've had the safety car lengthening the first stint a wee bit.
There we are, the cars winding through that tricky chicane. Frank Montani right up behind now.
Buemi's under investigation for something.
Okay, so Sebastian Buemi under investigation, but he is down in 18th position at the moment, so it's not going to affect the outcome of the race as it all starts to close in again between Nick Heidfeld there in the black and red Venturi car and the purpley pinky helmet of Frank Montani behind. But still up in the lead of the race, it's Nico Prost with Degrassi and Abt in 2nd and 3rd. And how soon will it be before an attempted pass comes from Frank Montani? Not long, I'd imagine.
I think if you pit early enough, you can turn. If you've got a little spare left in the battery, you can turn it up for that last in lap, which is maybe the advantage to pitting a wee bit early rather than running it all the way dry.
So here is Jaime. He has been in and changed his cars, and he's heading out the pits now. Frank Montani right up behind as they come down towards the final corner. Into the pits comes Nico Prost. The top three coming in. Montani decides, oh, I want to go in the pit lane as well. He dives in at the last minute.
Might be in trouble for that. He was on the wrong side of the line.
So that means Sam Bird moves into the lead of the race as the pit stops begin.
It's about to get busy in there.
At the halfway point in the race, Sam Bird now is out in the lead. So now it's all about, well, it's a minimum pit stop time, but also they need to be careful about unsafe releases as well. That's going to be the thing. There'll be a man with a stopwatch there. You can see on the left-hand side. He'll tell them when is the appropriate time to leave the pits. But if there's cars coming, then they need to be careful.
No, absolutely. And the guys have got this time now. They know how long it takes them to drive down there. They're obviously timing the whole the pit stop, the car change, as it were. And but a car coming out from a competitor at the wrong time could really mess things up for you here.
So there's Nico Prost getting strapped in. He was in the lead of the race with Degrassi behind and Daniel Abt in 3rd position. That was the order. Now we've got Bird and Peak out there. It's Frank Montani getting strapped into his 2nd machine. Out of the pits there. I think that was Nico Prost. As we look at the pit lane exit, is Prost still out in with the advantage? Into the pits comes Catherine Legg. Here now is Prost. Nico Prost. He's got Nick Heidfeld behind him, and the Abt guys are coming out behind. So that's Lucas Degrassi coming out just behind Nick Heidfeld. Then it's going to be Frank Montani. Then it is the other Abt car of Daniel Abt. And then out of the pit lane comes Nelson Piquet Jr. So Sam Bird is in the lead of the race. And is this going to be a different strategy, just one lap different perhaps, to get a full power lap in on your in lap? That's going to be very, very interesting to see.
He's pushing like hell. But here's the thing now, if you pull out of your pit stop and then you slow down to do the minimum time and hold the rest of the field up, you've gained an advantage.
That's a very good point, actually, and that might be why the Venturi car was going a little slow in the hands of Nick Heidfeld, just trying to gain that track position as the cars filter their way out of the pit lane. Catherine Legg now heading out onto the circuit. Sam Bird comes in then to do his pit stop, so let's see where he comes out. He was running down in 6th position when they came into the pits, and it'll be very interesting to see where he comes on the way out. What was his in-lap times like? Not particularly quick, so he certainly didn't go for it on his in-lap, should we say, but it is still Nico Prost at the moment who is in the net lead of the race in the Edams car.
Depends where the timing line is as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If it's halfway down the pit lane, he's going to have been on the speed limiter for quite a while. But Nico Prost has got a good old lead now.
Yeah, the Edams team have done a very good job to get him out with a strong advantage. And a drive-through penalty has been given to the number 9 car of Sebastian Buemi for crossing the pit exit line. So when Buemi's day couldn't get any worse, here comes Sam Bird then. He's heading out of the pit lane now. Our race leaders are just up in front of this group. It's Nico Prost. There he is in the Edams car. So it's a battle between he and Sam Bird. It's one of those two who are going to come out in the lead of the race, unless Charles Pic has done something spectacular on his in-lap. And here is Prost coming down towards the final corner, the left-hander. Turn 20 on the circuit. Accelerates through, gets on the throttle onto Tianjin East Road, and he's going to retake the lead because there's Sam Bird in the pit lane on the right-hand side. So Nico Prost retakes the lead of the race. Second place then, that's going to be the interesting battle. That's a back-marking car of Sebastian Buemi that's up in front of Nico Prost. Then we've got Heidfeld in second place. Then we've got De Grassi in third, Montani in fourth. It's fifth for Daniel Abt and sixth place for Sam Bird. So he didn't really lose or gain by taking that pit stop strategy, except maybe avoiding the carnage in the pit lane.
Yeah, avoided a bit of carnage. Now we can also turn that up a little bit because his last stint was a lap shorter than everybody else's. So he's got that advantage going for him. I think Prost right now, he's pulling away a little gap, but then he can manage. I think he can really work on managing that gap after that. And he is in the driver's seat here.
There is our race leader then, Nico Prost, with 11 laps to go here in Beijing. We're on lap 15 out of 25. Frank Montani flashing through. So the order is Nico Prost in the lead for Edam. Second is Nick Heidfeld for Venturi. Third is Lucas Di Grassi for the Virgin team, the Abt team. Fourth is Frank Montani, and look at this, we're on board with Nelson Piquet Jr. right up behind Charles Pic as they come through the narrowest point on the circuit, down towards the left-hander of 14, and Piquet is looking keen to get past.
Isn't it great to see the cars sliding around?
Yeah, it's really entertaining to watch these cars on the circuit. A real challenge to deal with these not particularly grippy street circuits, not much aero, harder tyres. Look at the amount of speed Piquet carries through compared to Charles Pic as they head out now onto the straight towards turn 19. They're running in similar speed mappings. That's the interesting thing, that you can tell that. Oh, bit of a front left lock up there from Piquet, but you can tell that because when they're in a straight, if they're doing the same sort of speed, they're running a similar sort of engine mappings.
He's just turned it up, I think. Probably just listening to you there, he just got on it. He's thought, I've had enough of this, I'm going to have a go at getting by this guy.
Into the final corner.
When he gets that close, he really, from the driver's seat, cannot see how close he is. So there's a bit of judgment going on there. There's a bit of closing your eyes too, until waiting until there's a little tap to the car in front. There's
Sebastian Buemi just moving out of the way of the battle for the lead that's coming past him, because he's down in 16th place. He has set the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 45.874.
What could have been.
Yeah, exactly. Frustration for Sebastian Buemi. De Grassi right up behind Nick Heidfeld, gets a bit of opposite lock coming out of the chicane. The gap is 3.5 seconds to the lead of the race there, so Nico Prost is looking very strong at the moment, with 10 laps to go here in Beijing to be the first ever Formula E race winner, but he's got a lot of strong competitors behind. Heidfeld, De Grassi, Montani, Daniel Abt is 5th, Sam Bird is 6th, Chandler is 7th, Pic is 8th, 9th is Piquet, and 10th is Oriol Severe.
A long way to go, and it's so easy to make a mistake. Just a slight misjudgment. Even if you slow down, it's actually sometimes easier to make a mistake, just managing the gap. So far from over.
Catherine Legg has been giving a warning for track limits, which means she's going too far over the white lines at some points on the circuit. But here's the standings then. You can see Nico Prost in the lead of the race. That 3% was probably taken when he came into the pits that last time around. I imagine he has more battery than that. Second place for Nick Heidfeld with Degrassi in third. And then Frank Montani looking pretty racy to try and get around the back of Lucas Degrassi.
The impressive thing about Frank, as much as he was coming through the field, I expected him to pit a couple of laps before everybody else, but he didn't. So it says a lot about the pace of Frank and that Andretti car. Yeah, I'd be worried if I was these two guys in front of him, because he's on a mission.
Karun Chandrak has just set the fastest final sector of anyone, and he's now just half a second behind Sam Bird in the battle over 6th position. On lap 17 now of 25. Not too far to go here in Beijing. We're on board with the 4th place man, Frank Montani, bouncing his way over those curbs. A very successful racing driver, Frank Montani. He has had 4 podium finishes at Le Mans. He was a factory driver for Peugeot. He had 7 Formula 1 races actually with Super Aguri back in 2006, a double Formula Nissan champion, which was the precursor to the Formula Renault 3.5 series that we have today. And you can see he's got 71% of battery remaining as he gets on the regen into the braking zone.
He drove the Andretti sports car in 2008 as well, the little Acura P2 car. He drove that for a while, and that's where the relationship started with the Andretti team. Now here he's kind of lifting there at the end of the braking zone before he starts to brake, before he hits the regen as well. So he's trying to save a little bit whilst staying close to the cars in front.
A drive-through penalty has been given to Michaela Cerruti for the Trulli team for a pit stop time infringement. And so that's a shame for Michaela. She's in 14th place at the moment, but that'll drop her further back in the field.
The Trulli guys are just having a bad day, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's just not. It's not been a nice start from testing to now. But they'll definitely regroup and figure it out.
And there is Michaela Cerruti then, who, as I say, running in 14th place, will have to serve that drive-through penalty within the next couple of laps or so. And it's a real shame because she's had a difficult day after that accident in free practice, really put her on the back foot. She only had 1 car for the second free practice session. There's Prost coming through the chicane, and the chasing pack are closing in. Half a second on that last lap they took out of Nico Prost, but as you say, he's just sort of consolidating his advantage now, I imagine.
I would hope so. In that position, that's certainly what I'd be doing, just managing that gap as much as you can, and keep something for if you need it in those last couple of laps. Just keep something in your pocket in case you've got to get on it and demoralise the boys, the guys that are chasing you at the end.
Frank Montani still tucked right up behind Lucas Degrassi as we come into turn 14.
You don't want Frank behind you, closing in with a couple of laps to go, because he won't be making a move, trust me.
And it's quite a distinctive helmet, isn't it? I can imagine looking in your mirror and seeing that bright pink helmet coming at you, and so high up in the cockpit.
I was going to say, he sits so high in the car anyway. You definitely see him. You definitely see him coming along there.
So close to the back of Lucas Degrassi as we come towards the final corner. So let's listen to see whether he does come off earlier than he brakes as we get to the braking zone. Okay, so that was a more swift change, so that presumably means he's pushing harder as Michael Andretti watches on. 8 laps to go here in Beijing. A look to the inside from Montani, but he's still not quite close enough. Nico Prost leading the way for Edam. Second place is Nick Heidfeld for Venturi. Third is Lucas Degrassi. And this man that we're on board with now for Andretti is fourth, Frank Montani. It's only 0.8 of a second between Heidfeld and Degrassi, but it's also only 2.2 seconds between race leader Nico Prost and second place man Nick Heidfeld. So they're all starting to close in now on race leader Prost.
That was an 8/10 swing on that lap. About to get interesting here. The problem when that starts happening, if you're not mentally strong enough, you start looking in the mirrors and start, it's a vicious circle and it just keeps going down.
Here you can see the time in pits, and 1:47 was the time set by Nico Prost in the pit lane, which was the limit that they were set. So absolutely nailed it there, the Edam squad.
Perfection from the Edam's guys, well drilled, and Jean-Paul Driot runs a tight ship there, and you can see that there.
And that must be difficult for them because they're right at the start of the pit lane, so they've got to judge it perfectly. Sebastian Buemi has been in, and he basically went out, turned it up full chat and set the fastest lap and has come into the pits now. So it looks as though he will, at the moment as it stands, have the fastest lap time, which will give him 2 points in the championship at least, but he's not going to get any more than that.
No, that's all he could do. That was the maximum he could do there. So the quickest car there, Nick Heidfeld, 46.8, about a second behind Buemi's fastest lap.
This is Karun Chandok and Sam Bird doing battle. Chandok's been reeling him in over the past couple of laps. We go on board with the Indian coming towards turn 19. Is he feeling brave enough to look up the inside into 19? He does, but oh, Sam Bird's gone wide. That could give Chandok the opportunity. Now down into the final corner of turn 20. Goes to the inside. Sam Bird's going to squeeze him. It really narrows down as we come up here towards this left-hander, but Chandok gets through and is up into 6th place. And he initially going into 19, you thought, oh, he's in a bit of no man's land, but it pressured Bird into the error.
Yeah, nice setup on the pass there, especially going into turn 20. There's a bigger bump on the inside than the outside, and he did a good job to hold it all together there.
And there's the family looking very pleased in the pit lane.
Quite right too.
With that pass, so Karun Chandok moving up into 6th position. Now here's a look at the replay again, and well, let's have a look at the bumps as they come into the braking zone, Dario.
Yeah, Sam was quite nice, didn't squeeze him too hard, but you see how hard that Karun hit the bumps there, but didn't lock up, kept it under control, and really nice pass, well set up a couple of corners in advance there.
Yeah, that was just after the setup had happened, and he looked to the inside line and managed to get through as Sam Bird missed the apex at turn 19. So good drive this from Karun Chandok.
While all that's going on though, they're still catching. Heidfeld is catching Nicola Frost, and down to 1.3 seconds now.
Yeah, it's getting very, very close to the lead of the race. There you can see Heidfeld's made up 3 positions on this lap. Heidfeld, 2nd place. He's used 50%. Nico Prost's battery percentages we've seen has been 3% since he made his pit stop, so we don't believe that one is particularly correct, but nevertheless, Nick Heidfeld is right with the back of Nico Prost now as they turn into the left-hander. Karun Chandok in clear air has just set the fastest middle sector of anyone, but he's 2 seconds behind Daniel Abt. But the battle for the lead of the race is very much on here in Formula E with just, well, 5 laps to go when they cross the line in a few seconds' time. Heidfeld looking racy.
Absolutely. Psychologically, this is the worst thing that can happen. You've been leading the race all day. 2nd place is coming along. And if you look at the rear wings, I'd say that Venturi was on less downforce than the Edam's car.
That's interesting. So that'll be worth keeping an eye on when they get close to one another in the straight. Frank Montani there running in 4th place.
I'd say Frank was running the least of any of those cars.
Okay, so it's worth keeping an eye on, as I say, as we look at the battle for the lead of the race. Nico Prost is in the lead. And initially, all bit of a lock-up from Heidfeld as he starts to push now. But it's got to be so difficult to want to push the hardest to win the race. But you can't do it. You can't do it. You've got to use your battery properly.
Well, you can push as far as your driving style, but just stay away from the power knob there, because that's going to get you in trouble. It's like the old turbo boost knobs from the old Group C cars back in the day. It'll get you in trouble.
And there's Michaela Cerruti making her way around. Nico Prost closing in then. And in fact, all of the top 4 are right with each other. And, well, there was in Formula 1 as well, you used to have an overtake button, didn't you, that give you more fuel, therefore more power. You could only use it 5 times, but drivers would keep using it, and they'd run out of power on the final laps. As we go on board again then with Nick Heidfeld in 2nd position. There you can see it's Lucas de Grassi in 3rd with Frank Montani behind in 4th spot.
Look how that car's dancing on the brakes there on the way into the chicane.
Just 7/10 of a second. Nico Prost did his personal best 1st sector. We're looking at Oriol Sevilla going past Nelson Piquet Jr. and taking 9th place away. This is coming up into turn 19. Does Takuma Sato follow through? No, he's not quite close enough to get involved in that action. Big moment there for Piquet Jr. and he might lose out to Stefan Sarazan now. Sarazan looks to the inside line and he's got Jerome D'Ambrosio right behind as well. So I wonder if Piquet Jr. is running out of power towards the end of this race because he has really had to back off.
Look how much Serbia has gapped him and Sato as well, just in that couple of corners. So obviously something's going on there.
Here comes the look from Jerome D'Ambrosio in the Dragon car. Not quite close enough to make the move on Stefan Sarazan. A drive-through penalty for Catherine Legg in the Amna Naguri car for crossing the pit exit line. But she is running in 14th place at the moment, so that'll maybe not lose any positions. But still, 4 laps to go, and the battle for the lead of the race is down to just half a second. Look at this, 25 laps of racing, and the top, 7 cars are pretty much all in one shot. 8.7 seconds covers the top 7 cars at the end of this race.
Yeah, it's closing up nicely here for the fans at home watching. I bet Prost was wishing it wasn't right now.
Absolutely, as the action is watched in the Andretti garage. Frank Montani running in 4th spot at the moment. Charles Pic has just done his personal best in the first sector, but he's 6 seconds behind Sam Bird. There's the order then on the left-hand side of the screen. Prost, Heidfeld, De Grassi, Montani, Abt, Chanak and Bird covered by 8.7 seconds with only 4 laps to go. Nerves in the Venturi pit. They know they could win the first ever Formula E race, and what an event it would be for Venturi, the team that's been co-founded by Leonardo DiCaprio, the car manufacturer that hold the electric land speed record at 307 miles an hour. What a string to their bow it would be to win the first ever Formula E race.
I think all these teams have worked so hard, haven't they, to get here, to get to this point, that it would mean a lot to any of them here, and you can see how much it does. It'd be interesting to see Frank Montagny can make some progress here, because he's dropped back just a wee bit.
Fastest final sector of anyone throughout the whole race for Nick Heidfeld. So he is starting to push with 3 laps to go. Nico Prost up in front of him. And as you say, Lucas Di Grassi and Frank Montani have just dropped back a little bit from these two. So maybe these two can afford to get a little bit more power in these remaining laps. We've got laps 23, 24 and 25 to go here in Beijing.
Just the million-dollar question, who's got slightly more battery power left? That's who's going to be able to push it, because as far as the handling of the cars and the performance of the drivers, they're very, very equal. It's who's just going to be able to turn it up just a wee bit enough to make that pass, or in Prost's case, stay ahead.
Also, the pressure as well is going to be worth looking at. There's pressure as the father watches on. Alain Prost, 4 times Formula 1 world champion, and the Venturi guys enjoyed watching Prost under pressure. I think
who's ever seen that before? Alain Prost looking nervous. I don't think I've ever seen that in all those years I watched him racing.
Flashing through along Huqing Street, down towards the Quaichong chicane. Through the left, through the right, and out again.
That was close. Heidfeld there on the exit wall. That was, I think he overextended a wee bit through the middle.
Just under 9/10 of a second separating first and second place. We're about to start the penultimate lap of the race. It looks like it's going to be one of those two that will take victory. Lucas Di Grassi not looking great on power. Well, he's got just a bit more than his chaser Frank Montani.
He's right there.
Yeah, he's right with him as they come out onto the start-finish straight. Penultimate lap, just 0.6 of a second between our race leaders here in Formula E. One of these two men is going to go down in history as the first ever all-electric single-seater race winner. Nico Prost or Nick Heidfeld.
Didn't both these guys drive for Rebellion?
Yes. Yes. In fact, were they not teammates this year when they won in LMP2?
They might be.
At Le Mans. So they know each other very well. They know their driving styles very well.
That could come into play here in a wee minute. We'll see what happens.
Out they come towards the chicanes again on National Stadium Road. The South National Stadium Road, and Heidfeld starting to push, isn't he? A bit of a bounce there. Nico Prost knows it because he's just gone purple in the first sector, which means he's fastest of anyone. Takuma Sato has just set the fastest lap of the race. So Sato might be in line to pick up those 2 points for fastest lap. But if the sun begins to set here in Beijing, the sun will set on one of these two drivers as the winner of the Formula E race.
Oh, Buemi's day goes from bad to worse.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing more that Sebastian Buemi can do. He is in the pits and out of the race, but his teammate Nico Prost has the chance to take victory for the EDAMS team. Out through the chicane again, towards 19. We've only got 1 lap to go.
He's going to try and set him up, isn't he? If you're Heidfeld, you're going to have to set him up and gradually gain on him through about 3 or 4 corners. Probably trying to get him, maybe even in the last corner. It might come down to the last corner, the last lap. You're setting him up the whole rest of the lap just to get close enough.
Down towards the final corner they come as we get ready to go for the penultimate lap. A lock-up on the left front from Heidfeld as he starts to push again. Well, I say starts to push, he's been pushing the whole race, but across the line they come. Is there any difference in the gap between them? No, still just 0.6 of a second. The Chinese fans have got all their smartphones and tablets at the ready to picture the moment that the first Formula E race is won here in Beijing.
If he's going to do a move, he's got to start getting closer just at this point of the lap. Coming out, probably actually out at the turn 13 chicane is when that move is going to really start sort of building. The cars are so close together, you can't just, you know, in terms of performance, you can't jump on them. You're going to have to build up to that move.
Through the left-hander of 6.
Prost was on the limit. Did you see the rear slide in there from mid to exit through that turn 6?
Really pushing hard, and these two guys have done a very good job of managing their battery. The fact that they've still got this sort of pace, whereas the likes of Degrassi, Montani and Daniel Abt are all dropping back a little bit. But here we go, out through towards turn 14. There's only 3 corners to go. 3 corners separate Nico Prost and victory. Into the left-hander he comes now. All very neat and tidy, and Heidfeldt's got a push.
They've done a brilliant job, these two, keeping the momentum up better than the other guys, using the momentum rather than using more battery power. And that, you know, conserving energy is one thing, but they've been driving the hell out of the cars all day.
Through the chicane. 2 more corners to go now in the FIA Formula E race here in Beijing. There's still just 0.6 of a second between first and second, but it looks as though Nico Prost may just have enough. He comes through turn 19, 1 turn to go. Heidfeldt's closing in as they come towards the final corner at turn 20. Is Heidfeldt going to fancy a look into the last corner of the race? Heidfeldt goes to the inside line, and they make contact, and they're both off. And that's an accident for Nick Heidfeldt. He has gone off the circuit. The two of them come together in the final corner, which means Lucas de Grassi is going to take victory in the FIA Formula E race here in Beijing. A dramatic, dramatic end to the race as Nick Heidfeldt is pitched into the air after contact with Nico Prost. The Venturi team watching on, and what a dramatic end as the cars come across the line. Frank Montani finishing in second for Andretti. It's third for Daniel Abt, fourth for Sam Bird, fifth for Charles Pic. But a shake of the head from Alain Prost. There is Nico Prost out of the car, and he goes as if to say, what happened there? Takuma Sato set the fastest lap of the race, and there is Nick Heidfeldt clambering out of his Venturi car.
It's good to see.
It's fantastic to see Nick Heidfeldt climbing out. Not really the test we wanted, and I think we might have a bit of a conversation here between these two. And Nick Heidfeldt not impressed with that.
Love to see that again, because they got alongside and then there was a big swerve in one direction or the other. Love to see a replay to see which one swerved at which there, because that was it was a great build-up to the move that we talked about.
It was all coming, wasn't it? It was all... Well, we got a climax here, but the victory was Lucas de Grassi, who was many people's favourite for victory. Probably not on the... was he your pick?
I picked him after qualifying, didn't I?
Yes, we did actually, so fair enough. Credit where credit's due. And so a dramatic end to the Formula E race here in Beijing. Here we go. This is on board, coming down towards the final corner. Heidfeldt goes to the inside, and I mean that's
swerved him. Yeah, that's
I mean, ideally we didn't want to put the crash structures on these Formula E cars to the test, but we have done. But I think there's very little debate about what happened there.
Yeah, Prost just swerved at him, which is a real shame. He drove a perfect race up until that point. And glad Heidfeldt's okay. That's a little bit too familiar for me, that going up into the into the fence business there. But when a car gets airborne like that, there's more luck involved than anything. And to see both drivers come back is really good to see that. So great job by de Grassi.
Yeah, Lucas de Grassi is the race winner here in the FIA Formula E Championship, the first ever race in Beijing. Frank Montani is in second place, so he got past. No, he was always in front of Daniel Abt in the closing stages, wasn't he? So he finishes in second. The Venturi guys coming to speak to Nick Heidfeldt, who understandably is furious. And there's Nico Prost walking back a little sheepish. So we may hear from them, but we'll certainly hear from our race winner Lucas de Grassi when he gets back to the pits. Third for Daniel Abt, then fourth for Sam Bird, fifth for Charles Pic, sixth for Karun Chanduk, and there is the real wreckage of the Venturi car.
Good day for the Andretti guys, and of course the Abt guys. Both cars finishing up there in their cases.
So there's the story of the race, and Nico Prost looking very disheartened, and well, Interesting to hear both of their sides of the story. Well, I think Heidfeld's side of the story we probably don't need to hear. From the one of fury.
Oh yeah, from the in-car it's clear, isn't it? Let's watch again from outside in case.
He checks to the right, he's not there.
No, I mean, that's just silly.
I mean, I do try to stay impartial at times, but
those curbs just sent that car into there. We've got to rethink that, because that happened at Spa as well with the GP3 car. We've got to rethink these sausage curbs.
And here we go again into the final corner. And from Prost's point of view, what was you know, you just cover the inside line here? Is that all you can do?
You're thinking, oh no, here he comes.
Yes.
That's happened to me the last lap of the 500 a couple of years ago with Sato, but yeah, he just drove at him. Yeah, not good. It's the shape. Sometimes you've been passed and you've got to accept it. You know, you do your best to not be passed, but what can you do? I was real worried about Heidfeld there.
Yeah. Good to see Nick climbing out of the car, and Alain Prost with his head in his hands as well. It looked like he put his head in his hands as soon as the contact was made, and didn't sort of watch the rest of the accident by the looks of things.
Great safety there from the car.
But there is our race winner, Lucas Di Grassi, for the Audi Sport Abt Formula E team. He takes victory, and in the first ever FIA Formula E race, it's the Brazilian, Lucas Di Grassi, who is victorious. Superb performance from him. Second in GP2 back in 2007, got his F1 break in 2010, where he raced 18 times with Virgin. He was second at Le Mans this year for the Audi team, as they now go through to get weighed, and the podium procedure will take place.
Frank making jokes on the weigh-in.
Does he take it? He takes his racing seriously, I presume, Frank. He doesn't seem to take anything else seriously.
I think nothing else, but when he puts the helmet on, it's all business. Up until that point, you've got to look out.
So the marshals roll over Nick Heidfeld's car. So we can now hear from the winner of the first ever E-Prix, Lucas Di Grassi.
Lucas Di Grassi, you have put everything you've learned over the past few months into practice. Congratulations, you are the winner. How does it feel?
It feels great to be the first winner in Formula E. Although I have to say, the accident in the last corner is something that nobody wants. Nobody wants to win this way. Our strategy was not the best strategy. We lost a position. We were not able to get it back. But that's racing. I'm very glad that Heidfeld is okay, and the car proved to be very safe, first of all. But I'm very happy to get this win home.
Excellent. Congratulations to you and the team.
Thank you.
A true gent as well, Lucas Di Grassi. You know, he comes out and he says, we didn't do the best job. It's not a shame we won, but, you know, probably not as deserved. But you take him whatever happens.
Oh, yeah, because you're going to lose races like that too.
Let's hear now from Frank Montani for Andretti, our second place driver. He's with Nicky.
Frank Montani, congratulations, second place, and you were on the tail of Lucas Di Grassi the entire time. Yeah, how does it feel?
Yeah, it's good to be on the tail. It's better to be on the front, but still happy for the guys. It's good result because it's good end of the day. Well, the beginning was good too, so it's a good day, you know, to be honest. I was just afraid about the guy, but as soon as my mechanic said the two of them are okay, because I saw them flying quite strongly. So they are okay, that's the most important. Race was good, it's good first event. Very happy, very proud of the Formula E things. So well done, guys.
And obviously you started from 8th, so some good overtaking skills to get up to second.
I don't know, maybe. That's not too bad, yeah, it's okay.
Thanks very much, well done.
Frank is a broadcaster for Canal Plus in France. He goes to all the Formula 1 races, doing interviews, interviewing drivers, but he doesn't behave in any way near the way he knows we want him to be. He's a right nuisance, isn't he?
But he's brilliant. I mean, we've talked about him. We love him. He's great.
Let's hear now from Daniel Abt, a 1-3 on the podium for Abt. Let's go down. He's with Nicky.
Daniel, he's wandering off. Let's see if we can get a very quick word. We can walk to you to the podium. Daniel, is your dad proud?
I don't know. I just heard that something's wrong, so...
Right, OK, we'll find out what that is and let you know as soon as we know.
OK, so Daniel Abt not particularly in a mood to have a chat there for the time being. A couple of shrugs of the shoulders.
Maybe a technical issue, I don't know.
Yeah, nothing is coming up on the timing screens. The incident involving Nick Heidfeld and Nico Prost is unsurprisingly under investigation, but we'll wait and see what comes of all that. But certainly Lucas de Grassi, after 25 laps of racing here at the first ever E-Prix, is the victor. And as we said, many people's favourite. It's great to see Andretti there in second place, a team that really know what they're doing, and a driver that is really strong as well in Frank Montani. Here's a look at the results then after the first ever FIA Formula E race. Lucas de Grassi takes victory and the 25 points that comes with it, finishing 3 seconds clear of Frank Montani in second place. Third for Daniel Abt in the Audi Sport Abt team as well, so a 1-3 for them. Sam Bird finishing fourth for Virgin Racing, a good drive from him after he didn't have the best of qualifying sessions. Fifth place for Charles Pic, so a 2-5 for Andretti. Karun Chandler finishing in sixth place for Mahindra. 7th and 8th for the two Dragon Racing cars of Jerome D'Ambrosio and Oriol Servia. Nelson Piquet Jr. finishing in 9th, and Stefan Sarazan picking up the final point, having started down in 19th place on the grid. Jaime Alguersuari 11th. Nico Prost and Nick Heidfeld both classified finishers, but as one lap down, but they ended up in all sorts of trouble at that final corner. Catherine Legg finishing 14th, Michele Ceruti finishing in 15th. Hoping Tung had to start from the pit lane. We saw Sato retire, Buemi was out of the race as well, Jarno Trulli and Bruno Senna both eliminated on the first lap of the E-Prix.